Was Whoopi Goldberg right to say that the Holocaust was not about race?
The Holocaust isn't about race. It's about man's inhumanity to man. These are two white groups of people. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other.
So first of all, was the Holocaust about race or not? Obviously it was, because the way Nazis treated the Jews was based on Hitler's theory of race. It was all about this Nazi hierarchy where they placed different races in different positions in the hierarchy, with, of course, the white Aryan race being right at the top, and the Jewish race, as they called it, right at the bottom, which made the Jews in the Nazis' eyes worthy of extermination. So we can't run away from that. And I do deeply understand the people who were upset about Whoopi's definition of the Holocaust. And I think it comes to show something about the way Jews are treated in this whole conversation around minority rights, around racism, because we all know very well that when it comes to Black Lives Matter and the fight of Black people for acknowledgement of their pain, of their suffering, if you say that all lives matter, if you say that racism towards Blacks is really something that has to do with hatred between all people, that would be considered offensive. That would be considered racist. That would be considered an insult to the pain of the Black people. So why is it that around Jews, it's so easy to claim that it wasn't about race, that it wasn't about the Jewish people specifically? I believe that this is also connected to how the Jewish minority is often considered to be white and privileged, and within the context of minority rights, Jews are often seen as part of the white supremacy, right? The white supreme race, and that is just not true, because Jews historically are probably the most persecuted minority in the world. Plus, they're not really white. Jews come in all colors. If you come to Israel, you'll see it. There are Black Jews, white Jews, yellow Jews, Jews of all colors, shapes, and forms. So again, this kind of puts a question mark about what the Jewish people or nation even is. Is it a race? Are they white? Are they what? Are they colored? What are they? So I think we have to look at what Whoopi had to say, and really, I don't blame Whoopi. I think she's just showing or shining a light on something very interesting in the way, the attitude that people have towards Jews. And as I talk about on my channel, I've talked about in another video, which you can see here, I'm linking to it above. There is something about the way that the world treats Jews that is unlike any other group of people. Even in circles that have all this compassion towards minorities that are suppressed and oppressed, and the suffering of minorities that are not white, even there, Jews don't get the same kind of empathy and the same kind of support, even though they're, as I said, so their history is so full of oppression, including a Holocaust, which is probably unique in its character because it was based on a very logical, rational decision to find all Jews and persecute and exterminate them based on their Jewishness. And it was so systemic, it was so rationally played out. It was not just something emotional or done in the rage of war. It was something very planned and executed by probably at the time the most cultured people in the world. So there was something very unique about the Holocaust, and that nobody can really take away. And at the same time, there's something very unique about Jews as well. And this is what I want everybody to think about and look at. That A, Jews don't get empathy and sympathy like other minorities do, even though they probably deserve it. And B, we don't really understand what the Jewish people even are. We don't understand, are they a race? Are they not a race? Are they white? Are they not white? What are they, right? So this, I think, is what's really important about this conversation, because as important as it is to remember the Holocaust, to really understand what happened there, to not delete the history, and to give the Holocaust its place in our memory, the reason we want to remember, or people want to remember, is because we're afraid it might happen again. But a better way to go about this is to really understand what is at the core of this hatred towards Jews, of anti-Semitism, and to know how to fix it. Once we get to the bottom of all of this, we will also get to the bottom of every other form of hate in the world. And in that, Whoopi Goldberg is right. We do need to solve hatred of all kinds towards all people. And I believe that if we can understand the attitudes towards Jews, anti-Semitism, we will unlock the way to solving all forms of hate. So if you haven't watched my video, I'm going to give you a little, my other video, I'm going to give you a little summary of who the Jews really are and why I'm saying what I'm saying. So the Jewish people is not like any other nation. Because like I said, there are of all colors, shapes, forms, backgrounds, nationalities, languages, even religions. There are all kinds of Jews. And, even the Jews who were Christians by the time the Nazis laid their hands on them were still considered Jews by the Nazis. So there's something deeper there under the surface that made them Jews in the eyes of the Nazis, in the eyes of anti-Semitism, in the eyes of reality beyond their external identity. And in fact, Jews have never been able to run away from this identity, even though they've tried. There's even research that shows that anti-Semitism itself, a kind of force that would come back again and again and again and persecute Jews, and also single Jews out and put stars of David on them and label them as Jews. It has been a force that has kept Jews together. It has kept Jews Jews. Otherwise, Jews would have run away from their identities long ago, because they were so persecuted, because there's something about Jews on the inside that is afraid of being Jewish, that wants to run away from it. I'm going to get to what it is in the moment. Well, I'll tell you already, it's a role, it's a special role that Jews carry, that Jews actually run away from and want to run away from. So they have turned to many other religions and identities in the past. Today, it's more, you'll see more of a secular identity that Jews will take on, cosmopolitan, secular identity, right? People who feel like, we don't identify with Israel, we don't identify with our Jewish roots, we're just like everybody else. But when the time comes, anti-Semitism rears its head, and it will point to all those Jews, no matter how secular they look, how modern they look, how liberal they are, doesn't matter. They're still going to be persecuted because of this force of nature that is anti-Semitism, that is really bigger than our little deeds and our little attempts to run away from our destiny and our responsibility. So as I was starting to say, how did this all start? It all started in ancient Mesopotamia, where humanity was once centered. Now, as I talk about in my channel a lot, this world isn't random. Reality isn't random. Everything is structured. There's a plan. There's a force at play that is leading us all towards more evolved states of being. Just like every other thing in nature, like our bodies, like all the systems of nature, everything is organized, ordered, and very structured. It's the same with humanity. Humanity, like our body, has different organs, different parts to it, and different roles that these parts must play, except we're not aware of it, and we have to become aware of it now. So the Jews are actually people who came from all the other parts of humanity, all the other parts of the organs of the body. They gathered around an idea of higher unity, of spiritual unity that would raise them above their egoism, their differences, their lower level consciousness, and allow them to become as one with nature, one with God, one with spirit, right? We all know Abraham was the father of the monotheistic religions. He was the father of all the religions that believe in one God. What that really means is that he taught them that notion of unity, of the oneness of all of life, where we can connect between us. And by that, the upper power, the upper force begins to reside in our consciousness, and we begin to perceive it through our unification. This is the method that he taught. So the Jewish people were these representatives of all the other parts of humanity that came together, and they were supposed to function like a kind of head or mind or brain that would lead this body of humanity towards this unity, towards this higher level of consciousness or being that is in our destiny to become, right? Like the caterpillar and the butterfly. This unity consciousness is our butterfly state. So all these little pieces of humanity that came from all the different tribes, they were the cells of the body of humanity, if you will, that have that inner inclination to be the butterfly, to lead the rest of the body to be the butterfly. So in the Jewish heritage, you will find all these different sayings. Love thy friend as thyself. That's the greatest law. That's the highest law. All of Israel must be as one, must be in brotherly love. We must be as one man with one heart. When Israel is united, no harm can come upon them. All of these sayings, you'll find tons and tons of them. It's all about the method of connection and how this connection changes our reality. So this is what they learned, and this was their function in the body and still is, except they have forgotten it. In fact, because they couldn't just perform their role when they were, closed off in this little group. They had to disperse all over the world, intermingle with the rest of humanity, so that in our times, they would come back to this role and bring the rest of humanity with them to this higher consciousness, to this true peace, true wholeness, true connection between all of us. That is their role, and that is what they're meant to do. And so to this day, subconsciously, and this has been scientifically shown, people feel that Israel and Jews are to blame for all that goes wrong, for everything. And Israel is always seen as the aggressor and is singled out, unlike any other country in the world, right? The UN will condemn Israel, I don't know how many more times every year than all the other countries combined, as if, there are no great atrocities happening in Syria or in Iran or in Venezuela, that Israel is the only problem. It's almost like Israel is the only problem. And this comes from that notion, that idea, that truth that Jews hold something very important within them, a key to the well-being of the rest of the world. So I'm not saying Israel is perfect. I'm not saying Jews are perfect. Far from it, because they're not doing their roles. They're not performing their role. They're not uniting. They're not awakening to this higher role that they have. They are in forgetfulness because of these thousands of years of exile. And because we need to awaken. Our process is to go from the material level of consciousness to our higher consciousness. And we have to do it consciously, willingly. We have to choose to connect. We have to do this through our will and our choice. So, long story, but this comes to show why people treat Jews differently than any other minority. Even though Jews have been persecuted throughout history, everywhere they went, they were persecuted. There was the Inquisition in Spain and the expulsion and terrible, terrible things that were done to Jews. And everywhere they went, they were expelled and persecuted and murdered. And, it's just terrible history, really. And then finally, the Holocaust, which was like the worst thing unimaginable. It's not even imaginable. It's just an unimaginable evil. And all of this happened to Jews. And yet still there's this lack of empathy towards them. Like they're not entitled to the same empathy that Blacks are in America. For example, I saw this recently when there was all that fighting here in Israel between Jews and Palestinians. And then this sparked a rise in 300% rise in anti-Semitic aggression against Jews all over the world, and in America specifically. And yet nobody really cared. It's like, Jews deserve it. Israel deserves it. There is this sentiment that Jews and Israel are to blame, right? They're privileged, they're white, they don't deserve the same sentiment that other minorities do. And so what I have to say is that there is a reason for this, because of that subconscious knowing that people have in their subconscious, in the collective subconscious, the Jews have this role to play. And so people will point a finger towards Jews and blame them for things or not feel empathy towards them, expecting Jews to play that role. And so this also answers the question of what Jews are. Are they a race? Are they white? Are they not? Who are they? Why don't we understand what they are? It's because they're not really a nation or a race like any other. They're really more of a spiritual, ideological group. And indeed, many people who are not Jews have joined this group throughout history and do so to this day. And more than anything, they represent that internal longing for source, for unity, to return to wholeness, to return to our unified state as human beings, to our evolved state. So I hope this made sense to you. This is what I have to say about Whoopi Goldberg's sentences. I think, well, she's doing us a kind of service by bringing this out into the open and showing us that there is something different about Jews and about people feel about Jews. And we have to see that and be willing to acknowledge it and find out what's behind it, and finally find that the cure to all hatred is in the power of Jews. If Jews start to unite amongst themselves to reawaken what unity they had achieved back then in the times of Abraham, that is in their soul, in their consciousness, if we reawaken that power of unity between us and we share that with the rest of the world, right? It's written in the Jewish heritage that Jews have to be a light unto the nations and to bring about tikkun olam, that's the correction of the world. If Jews take that responsibility and they start working towards that between them, this will create a ripple effect throughout the system of humanity, and it will enable a true solution to all hatred, not just towards Jews, but towards Blacks and other minorities, and will finally be able to fix what Whoopi Goldberg called that terrible hatred that all people have in their hearts, the human ego. That is what Jews need to do and can do, and subconsciously are expected to do by the rest of the world. So I know this is different. I know you might not agree with everything I said, but consider it. It's a deeper message. It goes to show that there's a system here at work and things don't happen coincidentally. There is a higher order and a plan, and we're all headed towards it. And the purpose is love. The purpose is connection. Everything bad that happens really just wants to awaken us to ourselves, to our power, to our ability to create a better reality through unity between us. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. Send this to somebody who needs to hear it and will find it interesting. Share this around. Subscribe, of course, to the channel to hear about new videos that come out. And let's continue this conversation in the comments below. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm sending you all the light and hope and happiness that is really our true reality, the truth for us. I know we can discover it together. Let's do this together, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.